We're have ourselves in order here to go ahead and start this Gilliam County Court regular meeting. It's Wednesday, May 2nd. It's 10:03. First order of business is the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do have some additions to the agenda. First of all, under 1.4, we have executive session 192-662D, labor negotiations. We also have 192-662A, which is employment, employee, staff, and agent. So that will need to be under two different executive sessions. Also, I have a item 2.7, an action item. It's to consider a copier from the McCog organization. Anyway, we can get into that. Also, item 3.6, it's the Department of Land and Conservation Development, the LCD. I met with them last Tuesday, and this was one that they have an economic opportunity analysis grant that's available, and I'd like to discuss us pursuing that. So those are the really three main things that we had to do.
That's 2.8.
That would be 3.6.
3.6.
Yeah. Other discussion. Anyway, I guess the first thing that we have at this time is public comment. Is anybody interested in, I guess we could give it a couple minutes here and see if anybody's interested in, maybe just a tad bit late. It doesn't appear as if we're going to have anything. Well, I guess we'll move right into our regular schedule here. First order of business, item 1.2. We've got Dewey Kennedy, the Gilliam County Roadmaster, and his staff report. Morning, Dewey.
It was pretty short and sweet. Got spring grading finished. The guys finished up yesterday. Actually, blades got moved back into town. I moved one blade to the north end of the county and doing touch-up work down there. And then the other blade is out right now out in the Idaho area. We're putting culvert ends on, doing good spring maintenance work and stuff. My last court meeting was in January, December, in there somewhere. Anyways, in that time, we had started the Hagwood Corner project on 4 Mile. That job is completed. Turned out very well. We completed the Arlington shop. It worked great this winter. Sandra never froze up on us once. Good place to keep stuff. Kept the Arlington crew happy too. Then also with the mild winter, didn't plow a lot of snow, sanded quite a bit. We were able to jump in and do that project on Philippi Grade, Clinton Canyon, that hard corner that's always been an issue. We got it dug down and widened down, and it's ready to it's ready to pave as soon as the weather gets good. At the same time, we jumped in, and the S-curves on baseline, just as you come off of Highway 19 right there, there's a blind area for the large farm traffic. We cut that off, and so that'll straighten that out, and we'll pave that also at the same time that we do the fill pipe project. The rock crusher with the project we had with waste management, we've moved out there. We have about 50% of what was needed for both projects done. Where waste management is digging cell 15 at the same time, they've got Delher in there. Delher's taking all the rock from the site. So there isn't enough for us to produce what's needed for both projects. So Waste Management has gone over to the Kim Waste Quarry over there and blasted over there. So when we get done, we'll just, with what we've got left, we talked to Brad this morning, we think we've got 5 days left where we're sitting. We'll have to pick the crusher up and move it over and set it up over at Kim Waste. And so it's kind of turned into a little bit of a headache. With waste management, but we'll get the project done. Anyway. The crib elevators, I know you've been by Shelter Station, are both gone. The mess is cleaned up. Concrete was excavated out, hauled to the landfill. We backfilled, graded, and Union Pacific Railroad was actually there, inspected the site, and said we did a good job. So well, that's ready there. The Condon daycare, finally got that project completed last week. With the spring rains and stuff, we weren't able to get in there and do the finished grading and stuff, just too much mud. Got that done. So that's done. The big issue we've got right now is J Creek Road and Oregon State Park's down there. The road between Mother Nature, the beavers, and everything, that road is eroded to the point where there's 11 places where it's just a sheer drop off down to the creek at anywhere from 18 to 22 feet. So I've closed the road.
Okay.
I've closed the road. I've put it in their hands to decide what they're going to do in order to allow us to improve the road. When they crept the creek, they built a fence right along the edge of the county road. They can't remove the fence post without doing an environmental assessment of every fence post. So they've got some issues that they've got to deal with before I can even go down there and make repairs. Because nothing can go over the creek.
And you're talking about really from the bridge.
So the concrete bridge down to the lock gate.
Okay.
Down there.
Okay. Yeah, that one's a mess. I mean.
Right.
I know you probably had conversations with Mark Coles, but they're looking, they've got a.
Right, with Starvation.
Yeah, with Starvation Lane,
Yeah.
and coming in from that direction is
Right.
really what the,
And that's what the state parks people, that's what they're counting on. That's where their development will be now, will be on the Sherman County side instead of the Gilliam County side. But they still have to be able to access their property.
okay.
And in order for them to do that, they have to do something with that fence.
All right.
And
Archaeological.
is an issue for them.
Okay.
But
Okay.
anyway, and then like I say, right now, we're doing culvert repairs, putting extensions on, repairing tore up pipes and stuff like that, countywide right now. So
Okay.
that's basically my report of what we've been up to. We've been real busy. Real busy. And then this is my working load plan. This is just a list of projects. And it's not in any particular order, it's just projects that I've got in the planning to do. As depends on where we're at, opportunity and stuff, these are the projects that I've got on the books right now to be working on.
Okay. Question for you. Remove the lemon bridge, that's the one that's at the
That's
upper.
at the far end where you start up the grade right there.
Okay, okay.
That bridge, the pilings under it are rotten
Yeah.
like the Lone Rock Bridge.
Right.
There's no water, it's just occasional water in there. My plan is to go in, remove the bridge, excavate the sides out, and actually pour a concrete, just a concrete wash in
Okay.
there. So that the road won't wash and people can
Still continue across.
still continue through that. And
Yeah, because I never really, I mean, a culvert in there just wouldn't be,
It's just, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think just a dip crossing would be more than sufficient
Sure.
to handle that.
Right.
I'm kind of working with the trucking companies to find out what's the, what they need for that bridge, for that. So
That
they're not
crossing.
putting a whole lot of strain on heavy trailers and stuff like that. So that's kind of a list of our projects. The rock crusher plan hasn't really changed a lot from what it was, from where we are now out to Lone Rock to produce the paving rock for Lone Rock grade and shoulder rock and chip rock for the rest of the road. The Mayville area has gone through a ton of rock. And it's not only on our county roads, but Wheeler County
Okay.
has used a lot of rock down there also. So that rock source is getting pretty depleted. And then the Schaefer pit makes a lot better chip rock than this Potter pit out here. It's cleaner rock. That's kind of my plan for next.
Okay. Can we go back?
Yes.
Middle Rock Creek and Upper Rock Creek rock picker? I
Well,
don't know
that's-
what that was, do we?
That's that tool that we built that we actually pull the ditches and everything, and it picks up all the debris and all the oversized rock
Oh,
and
okay.
gets it out of the road
Okay, I
and
know what
and
you're
puts the
talking about
gravel
now.
back in the road.
Okay, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about now. Okay, yeah. Just a little education.
Okay,
Didn't-
yeah.
I see that equipment, but,
Well, yeah, and then the shoulder machine, that's that machine that we
Right.
built, builds the shoulders on the roads. And then, as far as equipment replacement, water trucks and dump trucks is what I need a water truck to replace the old one. And then, our dump trucks are starting to get quite a bit of age on them. That's it. If something comes up, new is something I'm not interested in with the new, the DEF and all the new stuff that's just causing nightmares. When you talk to these, the trucking guys. I'm hoping that, something comes available that, pretty decent truck, and we can jump on it.
you're probably, keeping it at the state surplus area, keeping an eye on
I'm
that.
trying.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of competition
Yeah.
in that right now because
Right.
nobody wants these new trucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Between the DEF and that
Yeah.
and the transmissions that they're putting them in around there. People they're looking at buying older trucks and fixing them. So that's what we want.
Yeah. Some of our trucks go, how old? Say the oldest truck we have.
Is an 87
Yeah.
with 600 some thousand miles on it.
Okay.
It's an old state truck. And then our yellow truck, which is our heavy haul truck, has got almost 800,000 on it.
Something to be said for maintenance crew.
Yes, we have had,
Individual, so,
yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
we've had great success with our
Yeah.
mechanics and We have a very good service. Our rotation is,
Any questions for Dewey?
Well, I don't see any dollars in this whole report. What does the Arlington shop end up costing?
Arlington shop, the estimate was like just under $26,000 was what the materials cost.
Yeah.
And we did all the labor ourselves.
Right. But that all goes, you have that all tracked too, right?
Yes, we do, yes. We have cost tracked on everything.
Right. And like the Hagewood project, you must have a dollar figure for it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it'd be good for the court to know some of these kind
Okay.
of numbers.
Yeah.
And plus we should have something come in where we can approve prices on rock and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think we talked about that
yes,
previously too. So that's something we need to get.
okay.
uh,
Our equipment rates are pretty much set up on it's a combination of what the state uses for their rates for their equipment and what the rental companies. Is kind of how we've based our, I guess it's our rates for what it costs us to operate. And then as far as the rock goes, that's something that we've kind of adjusted through the years. We go off of what our crusher budget is and how much rock we produce through the year.
So it's a flexible number that, is adjusted based on what?
It's an adjustable number. It kind of changes from pit to pit. It's an average
Sure.
of what
Okay.
what everything is. Plus with, a little bit built in for replacement, some set aside for replacement, for equipment and wear and tear.
How much does a used water truck run?
All depends. It's usually, I've seen them anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 for a good one. And right now is not a good time with all the construction coming on. And, it's coming that time of year, especially like with the big windmill project and just all the construction that's going on. They're probably not going to be anything come available probably until fall, winter.
Yeah, then, it still may be a little bit after that too, because of,
Yes. Yeah.
the leasing market is really going to kind of carry.
Yeah. I
Might be
kind of got my
available to
word
us.
in at Woodpecker up there. They're picking up a lot of equipment out of the California area because of the environmental requirements that they're made to do. They're having to just get rid of their stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, we picked up a couple of machines here.
Okay. Anything further? Okay.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Our next appointment is at 10:30. I see we've got David Anderson here with the North Gilliam County Health District. He does have a correspondence to us. It's in regards to an agreement with Morrow County Health District. David, if you want to come on up, we can kind of yeah.
This is the actual agreement. You guys are all like typing at pants, that's awesome. This is very courtly. Usually when I'm here, I'm in trouble. That's it.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, is that why I've been called here?
Okay, so we have a mutual aid MOU between the two parties to provide but you carry on.
Oh, okay. So Morrow County Health District covers their entire county. Their health district also includes a hospital and also a hospice and nursing home kind of setup. Their hospice patients live throughout the region. In Morrow County, Gilliam County, I think one lived in Fossil at one time. So they can actually live anywhere. And as you probably know, a hospice patient, just by the design of the system, is going to pass away at home. And that's the goal, so they can be around family and friends and a familiar environment. Sometimes they have to go into the hospital for non-life-saving treatment, bronchitis, pneumonia, things like that, a UTI, where they have to go to the hospital for IV antibiotics, something like that. Happens very infrequently, but it does happen. It doesn't warrant a 911 call. In Multnomah County, we would call them code ones, which were private agreements. Come pick up so-and-so from this nursing home, bring to the hospital or the doctor's office, and then bring them back. Morrow County certainly could come into Gilliam and pick up their patients, but they contacted me and said, since it's Gilliam County, you know, crossing county lines is a little bit different than us going anywhere in our own county. And they asked if I'd be interested in doing the Gilliam County area. And I said, well, sure, I don't mind that. If we have volunteers available, we would love to do that. It's good training for our volunteers, where it's not an actual 911 call, but they're doing some of the same things. And we bring them into Hefner, I think it's Pioneer Memorial. And then he said, well, can you do South Gilliam also? I said, I don't see why not. It wouldn't interfere with the South County ambulance or the health district, because it isn't a 911 call. Our ASA, ambulance service agreement, covers 911. They wouldn't be losing out on any money because it's not a 911 call. And so I signed an MOU. I wrote this letter to the court and also sent it to Holly over the South Gilliam, South Gilliam Health District. And it, to me, seems like a pretty benign agreement. So I wanted to come here and tell you all about it. I don't think it warrants an actual written change in our ASA, but it is definitely worth notifying you guys that it could happen. And I won't even say will, because we've only had one person transported out of North, 1 in 3 years. So it very rarely happens. Most of the time, the person in the hospice passes away at home and they don't go into the hospital again. But there are those occasional times when it could happen. I think that's it. And I think I mentioned I have notified Holly also the same day I emailed this into you all.
Okay. Yes. Apparently this became, Shankovic saw it on the agenda and had wondered whether anybody had contacted the South Gilliam County ambulance services. And she felt that they hadn't been contacted, and the earliest that she could be here today was around 11:30. So, but I thought we wanted to get what you had to say in here. Initially, when David contacted me on this, it sounded like a pretty good deal, to be perfectly honest. I mean, his point was we were looking at one individual in 3 years. I thought, well, Morrow County had reached out to him, but I didn't realize until yesterday that South didn't feel as if any conversation had happened with them.
Sir, I may be wrong, but it's my understanding that they fall under the health district. And so I, as the administrator of the health district, notified their administrator of the health district, because I think it was we were discussing it at a higher level than, one of the subordinate agency. So I notified them, I notified you. I certainly don't have a problem, talking here, and discussing it with you guys and Shannon. But I figured it was at a higher level, so I didn't send it to everybody.
Right. Yeah, this happened, I think it was 11 o'clock yesterday.
So these people need to be transported by ambulance or?
When someone goes on hospice, they are, by definition, going to pass away within 4 to 6 months. And so most of those people, not most, some of those people are bedridden or haven't the strength, and so it would be those people. If someone is on hospice and they're still able to ambulate and, they could certainly go any way they want. But this would be initiated by one of the hospice nurses going to someone's home and saying, oh, Myrtle, you've got a really bad UTI, and this would make your activities of daily living and life really horrible, right now. So we can easily fix this and bring you back home so you can continue your hospice. So.
Yeah, I feel, to me, my conversations with David, this seemed like the right thing to do, because, as I had asked you, most of these people will require some sort of monitoring while they're being transported. But obviously, it should be handled by people who would be able to respond to the situation with the equipment that they have there. So.
And you'll notice in the MOU that I hand you, the remediation's $250 is a flat fee. That would recoup any fuel. So we're getting more in training, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, training activities, the EMTs and the EMRs plus the driver. So that money is fine. A normal 911 call into south or north usually is going to be anywhere from 1,000 up to 2,500, depending on what the situation was.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think it was a money thing. So
Yeah. So I guess Shannon will be here around 11:30 to, I guess, give us her perspective. David had sent me an email last night about, well, I didn't see it until this morning, but
Yeah,
it was close to midnight, and that he had some other things going on, so I thought while he was here, we'd go ahead and bring this up. Move forward. Again, Shannon was going to come in at 11:30 to be able to discuss this.
well, I can certainly stay in town until noon and
Okay.
answer any questions if Shannon has any.
Yeah.
And so.
Now, if you had some other business to be able to get to, could you maybe make it back here around 11:30?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anything else?
Do you have a copy of that agreement?
I do.
Any chance?
I was gonna bring one up to you, and then I went, should I do that, or do they hand things back?
I forgot.
Mike does sometimes.
Would you like a copy of the letter I sent also?
I have that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, next, thank you, David. We really appreciate it. We've got Peter Mitchell, Port of Arlington manager.
So, thought I would spend our time talking about Shuttler Station today. Kind of giddy about what's going on there right now. We've spent a lot of time, probably 5 years now, doing different projects in there, and things are really starting to come together. So the first project that we had been working on is getting a crossover switch for the siding there at Shuttler Station. And we teed that up for a couple of Connect Oregon grants that we weren't successful for. But about 3 years ago now, we had a big meeting at the Grain Lab, and we got all the rail people and all the players that were involved in that together in the same room. And that conversation started the process of developing more rail between Shuttler Station and Waste Management and helping them out. A lot of that crossover had to do with relieving some of the congestion that was happening with Waste Management's growing rail car need there. So West Rail now, they're chipping away. They've extended the line out past the Waste Management rail yard, I think about 5,000 feet. They've probably been in and talked to you about that, but that project's moving right along. And they'll start on the siding, getting us a lot more capacity at Shuttler Station. With the elevators coming down, we now have the ability to pretty easily go in there now and add more rail to break another unit train. We've got a rail car repair building plan in place. So when this Metro contract gets decided, things can be pretty exciting about bringing in some industrial rail building capacity. The other thing that's come up, and as you know, we've been working fiber. Fiber's been huge. And we met with the Zayo people it was about a year and a half ago now at Rufus with the Zayo guys. And one of the things we stressed while we were there with them was we need connectivity in our county. As you pass through, we want the connectivity. There's a nice little communication hut going up there right across the street from Shuttler Station on Cedar Springs Road. So now we have at Shuttler Station, it's almost a geocenter of the data center triangle in Oregon. So there's a lot of comm going through that area. We have Zayo now going through there, we have Windwave going through there with fiber, and we have CenturyLink. The other thing that we've been working on is we've been working with Columbia Basin and trying to identify what power they have. Columbia Basin has gotten power into the Slat substation. They have a feed now that they use to power the wind farms as part of their territory. So, and I've been seeing this 115 kV line that's right beside Shuttler Station, and it comes up it heads north towards Arlington. So one of the real challenges we've had with Pacific Power serves Arlington Mesa Industrial Park, and that's the park we've really tried to set up for data centers and that connectivity. One of the challenges we've had is that Pacific Power charges about a penny or two more per kilowatt than the Umatilla Electric Co-op or some of the other area places in the Dalles. They have a local cooperative. So I've been working with Columbia Basin, and just this last week we had a very large client prospect that we work on, needed power, a lot of power. The Shuttler Station Industrial Park, they have about 5 to 7 megawatts of power there, which is plenty for what's there now, but not for a large power consumer like a data center. And the need for data centers is not going away. If you've been looking anywhere in the community, up and down I-84, data centers are going in like crazy. What we have discovered is Columbia Basin with a little bit of tinkering, not very expensive work, that we can get 110 megawatts of power into Shuttler Station. So we have now started promoting and marketing Shuttler Station as having pretty substantial power available, which is huge for us. So this is really exciting news. You got the comm, you got the power. The one piece that may be a challenge, some of the data centers are going away from large water needs. Some of them that have approached us before, they wanted 1,000 gallons a minute of water. And of course, at Shuttler Station, you're not going to get that. We got about 90. So, but some of the new designs, they're going to more, they're running the buildings at a higher temperature, and so they don't quite need, and they use a recirculating cooling, and so they don't need quite the volumes of water. But that could be one potential problem there. The county really should consider what some options may be if we get that kind of a client looking there. But very, very exciting for Shuttler Station. So now we have projects teed up for rail, for data, and of course we've worked a couple, we have site plans in place for a large 20,000 square foot tilt-up concrete building. Site plan. So,
For rail car repair.
well, for the wind, I was thinking the wind project.
Okay.
You know, on the other side of the
Sure.
Omega Morgan property. So, you know, we've looked at, we've got opportunity, we're ready for opportunities as they present themselves in a lot of different ways. We've got answers for them. So, anyway, it was very, very exciting to find out that Columbia Basin could supply that kind of power in there. Up at the Arlington Mesa, work has begun on the Flex building. I wanted to report to you about you know, we've had all the challenges with the permitting office now. And it's taken a little over a month to get first review of our building plan up there. So we were very, very concerned, but just yesterday we got the review back, and it's been a little over a month that had been sitting in the office before we got. It took them a week to just acknowledge that we had submitted the application for a building permit. So that project's bubbling right along. It's going really well. The last thing I've got in there, we've got some marketing that we're doing. We've developed this kind of event, this A-Town Throwdown. It's kind of a fun thing, but what we're really after is it gives us an opportunity to showcase something that the windsurfers have known a long time, is that Arlington is a really cool place, really good place, a world-class place to windsurf, kite surf. And now they're starting to do these stand-up paddleboarding. They ride these wind waves. Some of them they can ride a wave for a mile or more. It's crazy. But we've got these little videos, 30-second spots that highlight this area. So, you know, Arlington's a place that people can connect to the river, river access through the port, whether it's windy or it's calm. You can come fishing and the water's pretty good there. And we've got 2 or 3 tournaments, fishing tournaments lined up already this year, so the fishing guys are coming in a lot more, and they're figuring out it's a pretty good place to fish too. So, the last thing I wanted to mention, we had a couple of billboards that we've had. We had one in Rufus and we had one in Boardman a couple of years ago, and we lost that one in the Boardman area. And so now we have one in Rufus and one in the Dalles. And Meadows is building the new billboard right after Tower Road over in Boardman, and they wanted to know if we wanted that. Of course, we don't have budget for it this year, and so it was going to cost about $750 a month. And at the chamber meeting last night, we talked about maybe, and we need to visit with Rachel and the Condon chamber, but maybe doing like a gateway to the John Day River territory or something along those lines with a theme. But that may be an opportunity coming up that we need to take advantage of. And I don't know how much time we have before somebody else may take been signed. But, we lost that other one, it killed us, it was a good spot, but Loves wanted it. So we didn't even get opportunity to bid on it or anything, they just took it, so we lost our position on that. But now we've got a position of potential of having some signage back on that side, so we then could have one. We have about a 6-month window because we've got the 2 contracts that last until March, and they want to go now, so it'd be about 6 months at $650 before we could drop one of the other 2 buildings. So, that's my report, unless you have something for me. There's a lot of other things going on too, but I'm going to take up all your time. It's kind of exciting when we work on these projects. They take years and years to do, and then all of a sudden, boom, they
Kind of come to
happen.
fruition. a little
Comes
bit.
together.
So Peter, the water issue out at the Sheltered Station Industrial Park for data centers, you've been discussing this for a long time, and the new cooling processes that they have, but they still need a substantial amount of water initially, and then of course they fill with it regularly. Your ideas on how we could get that substantial, I mean, we're definitely not going to be able to get it out of the aquifer that's in that particular location.
Well,
So,
this is what I understood, that aquifer is not, it's not the best. And, other people have hit water in the area and hit lots of water. But when you drill a well, you never know. And they can be expensive to get that kind of water because it would be a pretty big hole. The other option could be looking at running a water line, extending the water line from Arlington, their municipal water. And it's already, all the mechanics are in place, it's just extending the water line. So that could be a possibility as well. The cost, I've gotten some quotes from one of the engineers at a similar project, and the numbers were, of course, they're big, but not a lot more than what it would cost to drill a well, and taking a chance of what it would be, if you hit a dry hole or you didn't get the water you wanted. So it would be more of a sure thing, and then you always have that connectivity all along that stretch of road, and it can lend itself for other development as well. So that would be the other option to take a look at.
Then the Pacific Power situation at the Mesa Industrial Park, I mean, they haven't, I just never feel as if they're a player or wanting to be a player within our area.
Well,
it's disturbing.
In fairness to Pacific Power, they have people all the time saying, hey, we want this, we want that. And it's like, okay, sign the paper here and we'll be glad to get you whatever you want. But, so they're not going to build, they're in a position they don't build capacity unless they have a contract. And so that's what it takes. And it takes lead time, and a lot of these guys are in a hurry. They want something right now. And, some power providers are willing to put some dollars into developing capacity. In the case of Columbia Basin, it's not that they want to put dollars into developing capacity, it's just that they have, for various reasons out there. One, they're supplying a pretty good customer in waste management with power. So they had the 115 kV line out there. And then they needed to hook into the wind farms, and they needed 230 power for that and tie it into. So you have all these pieces in place that now you just need step-down transformers. And with Pacific Power, they need to do the whole thing. They need to tie into the 230. And we've done that early on. We got a power study done between Pacific Power and Bonneville to tie into the slab. And so we have the groundwork's been done. Now it's just a matter of getting a customer in dollars that somebody's willing to. And they don't 230 to 115 transformers. you can't go down to Walmart to get them.
Right.
It takes 2 years to get them built. So there's a long lead time.
So, talking about data center type businesses, does that include things like crypto mining?
It can, there's a market out there, there's some of those guys that are doing that now. They need a lot of power, but beyond crypto and the Bitcoin, which uses a lot of computing power, they don't need a lot of data, fiber connectivity, but they need computing power is what they're really doing. But the whole world, they're moving, it's this blockchain technology. And it's similar to the Bitcoin stuff. And I can't pretend I understand any of it. I had my nephew that works for Disney that's very involved in some of these kinds of things, and he did a good job of explaining, but that technology is not going away and the need for computing power is not going away because it has to do with security. It secures the signal on both ends of a send. And anymore, that becomes more and more important, so they need that blockchain technology. And it requires a lot of computing power to make it happen.
It's the electrical consumption that we have to be careful of.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And Oregon has set itself up. I mean, there's a reason that all the data centers are moving in here after they've exhausted a lot of the low-cost power up in Washington. And Oregon's next. We're on this grid, the hydroelectric grid from the Bonneville dams, and we're on the gas line here, and with Boardman Coal, so there's a lot of infrastructure in place that has that kind of power that they can tap into here. Because we're feeding even California from up here, and from the Dallas dam, that's a big feed going into the California market. So there's a lot of power here, and with these wind farms coming in, there's a lot of new power in the area as well, and that's still growing. Not as fast as it did originally, but with the Montague project coming in, and you see wind blades and stuff going on. I think there's a project or two on the other side of the river, so there's still more capacity being built all the time here.
So, the Port District includes the whole county.
Correct.
So what do we got going on this end?
Well, our small business program, we just helped fund a new trucking outfit, their truck brokerage. The port funded they have to go to brokerage training and become certified, and we've done that. And most of the businesses in downtown Condon, we've had a hand in their developing their business plan or helping them grow or expand or even come into existence. And we continue to do that. And before that, we did, it's been a while, but we did abate that industrial park out there at the radar base. Got rid of all that asbestos out there and teed that up. Help them with their site planning where they can lot it off if they wanted to develop industrially. So, and we continue to look for opportunities to help people out. But our small business plan, we continue to help people down here, and we did quite a bit of it. We've got 3 clients that we're working with right now.
What about the state airport? Isn't there industrial land around it too?
There is industrial land there. In that project, we have we have funding available to extend the water from the city out to the airport, and it's a project that we very much would like to be involved in doing.
That's been available for how long?
probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
But it requires, you know, there's some action that needs to happen at the city level. And so, you know, we're more than happy to help with it. Because the original idea for the project was that we were going to find funding to buy the material, and the city crew would install the pipe, put it out there for water. And we'd also looked at, early on, we looked at extending water and sewer, and we had looked at annexing the airport into the city. And of course, that requires, you know, city action to be able to do that. And that was pulled because for whatever reason, but we decided that we learned that we could just extend water beyond the city limits. So that made a big difference.
So there really isn't any big action happening on this end, as far as the port's activities and trying to bring business in and build up.
Well, I mean, I think you can say it that way, but the opportunities here are helping small businesses build and grow. And, you know, we continue to look for opportunities. Any opportunity comes down and we can help move a project, we're absolutely willing to do it.
Okay.
And we've done a number of them, you know. We looked at really hard at doing a brewery down here. We worked that real hard. It didn't quite work out. We looked at, you know, a lot of things. So.
So, Peter, we have one more thing on the agenda here. It's a discussion item, and it's in regards to the Gronquist Business and Community Center building. The Cumbie Hills manager approached the port in regards to, you know, taking that operation over. We're going to discuss it a little more in depth, but I was just wondering the perspective that the port had with it when they had approached you.
The Port Board's position on it is they were reluctant to do the housing side of that. It's, you know, I mean, we have the RV and the trailer park there, so we do some of that housing, but not, you know, a senior living type facility. I mean, it's really apartments is what it is for 55 and older. Certainly, we have staff and maintenance that would be capable of taking care of that kind of facility. With the Gronquist building, you know, the port owns the land right next to it. It's about 1.25 acres or something like that. And the Gronquist building, you know, it's teed up for commercial or office space on the bottom half of that, and then marketing events on the top half, certainly within the port's wheelhouse. The Port Board is just cautious and wants to make sure that we're not committing to something that will be a cash drain, because we don't have deep pockets. You know, if the county court doesn't support or fund our projects, then, you know, we just have enough to keep the doors open. And so we don't want to be in a position where taking on a new building, a new project would cost us funds, and that we couldn't rent it out or take on, you know, that kind of a deal. Which I think, you know, from management point of view, it's certainly something that, you know, we can do, and it'll that those office spaces are needed, and they will get rented out here in short order. So, and the upstairs, the community center part of that, they're getting rented out more and more all the time. People are finding need for that space. You know, the wind farms are coming in there, they're renting meeting space, Waste Management uses it for meeting space, and others. And a lot of community functions, exactly what it's designed for. So it's being used more and more all the time, and, you know, I think the port, we certainly have the staff and the maintenance capability to care and take care of both of them, and the bigger interest is really in the Gronquist building.
Well, thank you. Any further questions for Peter that we might have? We do have a conference call that's going to be happening right at 11 o'clock, so we have more for him. We have five minutes. Okay? Nothing else? Well, as far as the continuing that conversation, I believe it's going to take a lot longer than 5 minutes to continue the discussion on the Courthouse building. I just wanted to make sure that we heard what the port was, their position. So, okay.
So we're still talking to them. So.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Okay. Don't really have anything. Yeah, there's really, maybe we can take a look at, well, the April 4th, I think we just kind of got the April 18th minutes, but.
I had a few things that I noticed on the April 4th. Oops. I don't know if we have time.
Yeah, okay, well, why don't we just go ahead and we'll give it a few minutes until they're able to call in.
Because you saw me
Okay.
back into his office, all the attention.
Great. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get ourselves prepared for executive session and move into it. So at this time, the Gilliam County Court is going to move into executive session under ORS 192.662A for employment of an officer, employee, staff member, or agent, and under D for labor negotiations. So with that being said, we'll clear the room and get ready for the phone call. So after discussion in regards to union labor negotiations, we have really nothing even to add. Pick this up later. So I'd like to move back into executive session again under 192.662A in regards to employment of an officer, employee, staff member, or agent. So again, we shall move back into executive session. Give Leanne time to check.
We did want to take care of that other business, Shannon and everybody that's there.
Yeah, all right, let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll, yeah. So I'm sorry, we'll keep ourselves into it.
Since they're
They're out there.
at 11:30.
I'm sorry, that took far too long.
Yeah, this was not much
Okay, we're going to pick back up on the conversation in regards to the North Gilliam County Health District letter, the agreement with Morrow County Health District, to supply hospice transportation for patients to and from the hospital. And yesterday David, we really didn't talk about it yesterday, but we did have Shannon. Can you come up, Shannon,
Sure.
and kind of give us your perspective? So what's been asked is the North Gilliam County Health District in transporting of hospice clients to what would be the Morrow County Health District, I guess the hospital there. And you had some concerns.
I did. The first that South Gilliam County Ambulance was aware of it was when we received a letter from David Anderson saying that He had gone into an agreement, at least as far as we can read the letter, that said that they would be transporting hospice patients from Gilliam County over to the hospital at Hefner. And the ambulance service was not contacted about this at all. Cindy Kenton and I, neither one of us were aware of this until we got the letter that was signed that said that this was what was going to happen. I contacted Rusty Estes yesterday. Rusty is in charge of the hospice over at Morrow County. He kind of does the, Bob Hauser is his boss, but Rusty is the one that is kind of the initial contact for that. And I contacted Rusty, and he told me that the way that that had come about was that there was a hospice patient in Arlington that needed transport, and that he felt like he did not want to poach on Arlington's ambulance area to go in and transport that patient. So they contacted David, and then Bob Hauser and David came up with this agreement for North Gilliam Medic to transport the patients from Gilliam County over to Morrow County. I spoke with, Rusty had no idea that South Gilliam Ambulance hadn't been contacted about this. Bob Hauser, when I spoke with him this morning, said that he thought that David was in charge of all of that for the county, and he also had no idea that South Gilliam Ambulance had not been contacted about it. His words to me this morning were that Rusty had gone, or someone had gone over to transport the patient, and that David was concerned that a Morrow County ambulance was in Arlington, and so that's how this agreement came about. In talking with Bob, and Cindy Hinton and I, who were the co-coordinators, have had this discussion, we feel like we provide service to those patients maybe before they become hospice patients. They're the patients that we deal with on a regular basis. We both have a soft place in our heart for hospice patients. Her mom was on hospice, my dad was on hospice. We would be more than willing to transport those patients, and we weren't even in the loop with all of this. So in talking to Bob Hauser this morning, he said he would send an agreement to South Gilliam County Health District, who has to sign that for the south end of the county, and we can enter into that agreement with them. If we did not have staff available, then Morrow County would send an ambulance to transport that patient. So that's kind of where it is. It was kind of a situation where we talked about it and felt like, what are our citizens going to feel like if we have a North Gilliam ambulance coming into our area? Our people are going to say, why are you doing this transport instead of the people that normally do transports for us? Mm-hmm. And so that was how the whole thing came about, and we were completely unaware of it until the health district got a letter about it.
Mm-hmm. So it was the health district that got a letter?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what David said. Apparently it's, I mean, it's dated April 23rd was the letter that came from, I don't know, I don't have the MOU that I give that to Leanne for.
I guess my question would be is, why would there be an assumption that you could bring the ambulance into South Gilliam's area to do that without even talking to us? That didn't make any sense to me.
Dave?
Judge, like I brought up when I talked a little earlier, it was being handled at a health district level, and I communicated as the administrator of the health district with the administrator of the South Health District, which is over the ambulance. Whether they operate in that manner or not, legally they're over the ambulance. And so I did what I felt should have been done. I had no problem not doing any of this. And the conversation that Shannon didn't get the same conversation I did when talking to people in Morrow, because after hearing her talk, I'm very tempted to not do this at all. There were indeed 2 ambulances in Arlington. One happened at 2 in the morning, and they flew in life flight because the military had the airspace closed down and they couldn't find a Hefner. So they came all the way down here to Arlington. I thought there was a whole bunch of land between here and Hefner that they could have landed, but they came all the way down to our ballpark. I don't have a problem with that, but I just didn't know what to answer when our people were saying, hey, what was the ambulance? What was the helicopter? And I'm like, I don't know. And then one morning, I got a call from Rusty and then Bob regarding a hospice patient in Arlington, asking if I would have an issue if they come through here. I said, no. In the future, if it's easier for you guys, we're here. We'd be happy to bring them to you. And they said, oh, that's great, we'll drop an MOU. I have no connection, or I have no need to do this. And the south part, they said, so would you do north and south? I said, well, there are so very few people. I'll notify them if they have an issue. I'll do whatever they like. But I wasn't trying to step on anybody's feet. I notified the health district, as I would think would be my responsibility. I know they would do the opposite. Notify either me or whatever, but I'm in charge of the ambulance and the district, so it's a little easier. I have no problem if their ambulance goes into an agreement. It'll save us, some time. That's fine. It was just to try to help out Morrow, and, I probably should have talked to the ambulance about, is this an issue if you guys transport? My thinking was, there's very little remediation here. They have the same volunteer issues we do. And so I made an assumption, and that was incorrect. But as far as notifying the south end, I think that was actually done.
Well, it appeared that it was done with a letter. That was the first that we had any indication, and it appeared by the letter and by the email that it was already a done deal.
The MOU was actually signed before that, and so I was notifying you guys if there was an issue that, it could easily be changed. An MOU, just by the nature of it, it's a memorandum of understanding. It's not a contract.
I understand what MOUs are. I also know that we are under the health district, but
Okay,
I
well,
would think this is a courtesy that we would have been notified before it was done.
I think it's really kind of working itself out here. It appears as if there's going to be two MOUs, one for the South Gilliam County ambulance service and one for the North Gilliam County service with Morrow.
The question as far as how does the court involved in this is the ambulance service agreement, and does it really affect this ambulance service agreement that we're responsible for?
Your ambulance service agreement states in one part that there is no expectation that there will be non-emergent transports. And so to me, that could possibly fall under this as a non-emergent transport. And so that would maybe be where, as far as I'm concerned, looking at the ambulance service agreement, maybe where that would fall.
Yeah, and there is no obligation for us to oversee that.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
And David and I had that conversation before.
Historically, in other counties, the people call whichever ambulance company they usually use. And so, it normally doesn't fall under the ASA.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I think that's where I stand.
I felt as if this was really a courtesy that was coming from the North Gilliam County Health District and letting us know that this was something that they were going to be supplying. That's why it was really it was put under correspondence as opposed to action or discussion or anything, so, yeah. But I believe that right now we're in a position where the South can get an MOU with the Morrow County Health District, and we're all good, right? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move ourselves into executive session again under
Sheriff,
ORS.
I got a question.
Yeah,
Do we have time? Can we do that in 10 minutes, or should we?
I think we can. I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we may run over just a little bit, and what I can tell everybody here is that based on the rest of our agenda, we'll pick it up after lunch. We'll be back here at 1:05.
Sheriff, did you want to do your, is it time to do this letter?
Yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, we can go into that. Let's do it. So on the agenda, because of I had, it says Wasco County Sheriff request for funding to assist. It really should have been the Gilliam County Sheriff, but I had given the information to Leanne and a text message, I think it was, or that I had something sitting on my desk for her to put on the agenda.
Which was a letter from a Wasco County Sheriff.
So if you pull out, we do have a letter here from Gilliam County Sheriff about putting in a scanning device at Norcorp.
Yeah, and as the letter states, we're having some issues in Norcor with people smuggling drugs in their body cavities. We can't do full cavity searches unless we have probable cause to believe that they have something stored in those areas. But drugs are getting in the facility, and we've had some recent cases where they're getting into the facility. There's a huge liability of in-custody deaths, and there's been a few that have happened around the area, and it's quite a liability for the facility and the counties involved. So, in a few months back, Oregon State Sheriff's Association decided that, our purchasing power is healthier if we join together. And there is a need across the state for these body scanners because of the issues of contraband that's getting into use. So we were able to get some group pricing of body scanner. We know that Norcor can't afford this on their own. A couple of the participating counties are having difficulty in funding Norcor as it is. So Sherman County has approved the $40,000. I'm here to ask for $40,000 from Gilliam County, and we're waiting to see what happens in Wasco and Hood River counties. Norcor, there is some room in the budget to afford $35,000 to $40,000 for their share. There will be an order placed in July. Is the next order from the group. So we've got till then, but we're kind of waiting. If Hood River or Wasco County don't approve, and there's going to be a shortfall, then this money would not be used.
This is my question.
I have $20,000 in my police equipment line item that I could use the majority of that. I've only got another month to go, so I could use I just got the budget update for the end of March, and I had $20,000.
And you're wanting to purchase it for the end of the year, for the end of this fiscal year?
Well, if we could use funds out of this fiscal year dedicated towards it, but we could also wait until the next budget as well. But I guess to move forward, we just need to know if the county would approve the expenditure of these funds for this full body scanner so that we can continue to move forward in looking for funding with the other two counties, and Sherman County's already approved.
Yeah, based on at Norcor, I didn't think that Norcor had the funds until it got into the next fiscal year. So I was thinking that it would go on to the budget that we're working on now for expenditure in July or August. So maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, according to Brian, it can go either
Either way.
way. He thought there would be enough left over out of this budget that we could
They can,
together.
okay.
Actually, their share, if Gilliam and Sherman did 40, their share is going to be 31,600.
Right.
Who's share?
Hood
It's
River-
31?
Hood River County, Wasco County, and Norfolk. They would figure out to 31.6, I think, so I didn't add all that up, but
So,
I
so,
can.
so we're asking those two little counties to kick in.
Yeah, that's
A
usually
bigger number
how
than-
it goes. Liability is the same for all of us, though.
Oh,
But yeah, the cost is, but I mean, you know, and Steve will tell you, going through the Norcore budget, we're having difficulty getting their shares out now.
Yeah.
So. No, I agree with you on that, but the sheriff's thought it's, the four of us thought that this is something, we have an opportunity now.
yeah.
It's an opportunity for us to hopefully head off some liability and catch some of this that's coming into jail.
So
And just to give you an idea, a month ago, we got word that the work crew inmates, one of them had a deal with a guy that was getting out of jail to stash some drugs at a place that they stopped in Arlington. And sure enough, we found several balloons containing contraband that the inmate work crew member intended to get into the jail. And this is something that we wouldn't catch. He would have gotten in there.
So it's not like the digital switch and we have a couple 100,000 every year to kick in to keep it updated now, is it?
So there's some options. We get a 2-year warranty with the package, and then we can add 6 years to that for $10,000 a year cost.
So that's,
So this $175,000 includes the full 6-year extended warranty. I'm opposed to that, but the other sheriffs, we're still in conversation about that.
okay.
We could get it for $135,000, but if we added the extended warranties, it brings it up to $175,000. I'm not wanting to do the full 6 years of extended warranty. If we don't get all of the funding, we might have to back down on that depending on how much we get.
Yeah. But that would be Norcorp picking up that part of it?
Yes, the ongoing maintenance and stuff.
Yeah.
If we didn't get the extended warranty, would fall on our court.
Right.
I felt as if, you know, the discussion about that was very short at Norcore. But based on what was there was that would be a Norcore expense in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
then
wouldn't
again,
think it's gonna be, if we get the extended warranty, there shouldn't be
right.
much. If we don't get the extended warranty after 2 years, the third, fourth, fifth years, yeah, there very much could be. I mean, there is some liability in not keeping it up to date and refreshing the software and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
If we get a lawsuit from it.
Well, it's unfortunate that Norcorp can't figure out to fund this, you know, through the regular channels, but it's
Well, we could go deep into the conversation talking about funding the juvenile side, but that would be going way off base, so. And like I said, I do have the $20,000 in my police equipment that could go this
Yeah.
direction. I would also point out that the economic enhancement funds, we changed that. But I wouldn't really want to go there because, I mean, essentially, we're talking about $20,000 that I need from the county to approve.
Well, I guess really our question would be, would be $40,000. You know, whether we want to put that into the budget, because really the budget has been presented to us, and so it would be in addition to what would go into the sheriff's, either the sheriff's police equipment line item, or maybe something in the corrections line item, doing that $40,000. But again, it was something that really come after the proposed budget had been
yeah.
delivered to us. And But Garrett, the sheriff's and Norcor, we just really wasn't sure. We probably could figure out a way with his $20,000 and someplace else come up with another $20,000 to pay for it in this fiscal year. It really would be the wish of the court.
We can at least get the 20 from this year, and, we can adjust the budget for next year and get the other 20,
Well,
even though it's been presented,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I
It
guess.
probably won't be ordered till after July 1st anyways, but if we just have the funds committed, we can continue to buy it.
So what you're saying is we send money off to Norcor and give them $20,000 to.
I think
Wouldn't
we
the 20 just carry over to next year? I mean, we just,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
No, we don't have a carryover budget.
No.
Yeah,
So
because
our
they're
funds
all
will-
part, they're
Yeah.
part.
They send it to Northwood.
No, all part of but the we can general send it- fund.
We'd have to have a bill from Norcor for the first 20, and then
We
we
should
send it
know
to-
by the end of this fiscal year whether this is going to happen or
Yes.
not.
Right.
So sending the 20 isn't like, well, we're going to send you the 20, but if it don't happen, you got to send it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I mean, if I could just go back to them and say, yes, Gilliam County is committed
Ah,
to
yeah, I
the
know.
$40,000, we wouldn't have to do anything right now. But plan for it after July 1st. You wouldn't have to send money anywhere if you didn't want to do that.
right.
I think for us to commit, though, we kind of have to have an idea of where we're getting the money.
Sure.
Well, I think you understand. I mean, basically, it's, if we don't spend it this year, it becomes the balance forward into next year, and we put it on to next year's budget.
Yeah.
So, and I think that will be part of what would be at the budget committee meetings, yeah. And I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it, of course, being on the Norcor board, fully understand the contraband and everything else that has
Oh,
been
yeah.
coming in there and dealing with the issue that the sheriffs are having to deal with, and I feel it's a fairly, very important thing to have happen. It's just, we got the information after the fact of the budget being put together. So, if it's the favor of the court, I mean, we
Yeah.
put it into the budget and make sure that it gets funded. So, okay, all right. That's, I think,
So I'll tell my fellow sheriffs that we're in.
we're in.
Okay.
I mean, it still has to go through budget approval into things, but yeah.
But I feel committed.
The commitment is there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll pick up the executive session right after lunch. Thank you that was a great. Okay, so with that being said, we'll recess until 1 o'clock. Okay, out of recess, I think we're going to go ahead and move ourselves back into executive session under ORS 192-662A, employment of an officer, employee, staff member, or agent. Okay, we have ourselves pulling ourselves out of executive session back into regular session. It's now 1:40, May 2nd. So we do have some action, so entertain.
You want the unmarked action item?
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we hire Sandy McKay for the court administrator, and this will be with a 18-month probationary period. And if that's also what the sheriff's department's doing now.
Okay. Do I hear a second? I'll second. So it's been moved and seconded to hire Sandy McKay to take the court administrator position. on an 18-month probationary period, if that's what the sheriff's department is doing. Any further discussion?
Do you guys think it should be 18 months anyway?
Well, I think it should be 18 months anyway. I believe that it should entail a 6 months, every 6-month review.
Okay.
So during this 18 months, we'd be looking at 3 reviews that would go on
Okay.
with it. Do you
Well,
accept that into your?
I accepted it.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to hire Sandy McKay as the Gilliam County Court Administrator under an 18-month probationary period with employee reviews every 6 months. Okay. Any other discussion with this? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Shall move on. Okay, I'm going to pick up with the Gronquist building. Again, I had Peter Mitchell, who had give us kind of some information based on what the port had. How this kind of come about was they were approached by the Columbia Hills Manor Group, who felt that their duties in this had pretty well ended. Initially, this started out, I believe, as a group of maybe 7 or 8 people. It was now down to 3, that being Tia Devon, Nancy Proctor, and Jeff Wilkins. Tia has moved out of the area with a very busy slate where she's at. Really difficult for her to continue being active within the organization. Nancy Proctor just felt that she was heading towards retirement and that it was more and more difficult for her to be involved with it. Jeff Wilkins had stated that his goal was to be involved just long enough to get the Gronquist building built. So that this organization is responsible for 2 different things, not only the Gronquist building, but also the low-income senior living facility there in Arlington. They were hoping to be able to convince the port to take over both. The port was kind of interested in the Gronquist building, but not at all in the low-income senior living. Gilliam County, I guess, is invested in the Gronquist building. We give them all the money for it. We also supplied in-kind services to the low-income senior living facility. I don't, at this time, don't know where Columbia Hills Manor's alternatives, where they can go. I think they're reaching out to the county now to see what our thoughts are on this. I don't know. How this all really kind of began landing in my lap is I have a dental organization that's really wanting to get set up in Arlington. I had hoped to actually have them set up in the Gronquist building. But I don't know where things, I don't know who they're going to be reporting to, who's going to be responsible.
Did, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Peter was talking, didn't he kind of act like they were still talking with them about it?
Yeah, he did say that today.
You did. That's completely different than what I heard from their board.
That's, yes, same here.
Completely different.
It's like a nonprofit's trying to die.
The nonprofit is trying to die.
They haven't existed very long to begin with.
Yeah, I guess, 5 years, maybe Well,
It's before you,
yeah, it was before I come in, so.
because I went to some of the meetings when they were trying to build the manor.
Yeah. Well, when I came into office, they were probably 20% into the building of the low-income senior living.
Oh,
Yeah. Maybe a little bit farther along than that, but not much.
they haven't really, I mean, I don't know, you know. Maybe they need to come and talk to us, but it seems like they need to be recruiting people to be on their board.
Yeah,
They
again,
have some-
I'm just, right at this particular time, kind of carrying the message.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But that
wanted
might
you
be-
guys to be aware of where things are with that.
Right.
You know, I don't think we make any decisions, we don't do anything with this today. It just, it's something that's there in front of us.
Maybe PCDC would like some more work.
I believe that's
New
one of
board
the things-
members too, huh?
Yes, Lori?
So are those two facilities owned by the same or run by the same nonprofit group?
Yeah,
Okay.
Columbia Hills Manor.
And what do their bylaws say about?
About resolving, or what happens if they fail or dissolve?
That's a very good question.
That should be in their bylaws
Yeah,
as a nonprofit.
yeah, to be honest with you, I think it was
Their assets
2 weeks
should
ago
have
that
to-
I heard a
It should
rumor
say
that
their
they-
bylaws, what happens to their assets and how they would dissolve.
Again, I'm just making you guys aware,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that our money is in jeopardy,
Yep,
our investment.
our investment.
Yeah.
So, you know, I assume there's going to be a lot more to come in the next 3 months.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the, which one, the demolition project for the warehouse behind the library. So we were given you know, there's kind of a city of Condon who agreed to allow this historic warehouse to be demolished, but they did give us some criteria on what can be done. I guess one of them that they feel as if we should check with the Historical Society to see if there's any elements of it that could be preserved. They feel that old growth wood should be salvaged and repurposed. And, you know, it's going to require an archaeological work. Something, if any archaeological resources are discovered, all the proper state and federal protocols should be followed. Everything else is pretty. So I guess on this one, I'm really wondering about, you know, permission to bring somebody in to begin looking at what might be salvageable.
Yeah.
Jeff Schott is probably, you know, one would be my first choice as an individual to take a look at it and see if there's anything there that he feels structurally could be reused. You know, when it says old growth wood and other historic materials, I would assume the whole thing is old growth wood.
Well, it may not be able to use structurally,
Yeah.
but can be used decoratively. Well, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, he would probably tell you that it probably would, you know, is inspected and that sort of thing, so it's not able to be used
For structure.
for structure. But, and with him working with the Historical Society, I guess, it seems like.
Yeah.
but, yeah, I'd say we need to, well, and the question is, how soon do we want to
That's,
take care of it? I mean, the
the,
road department was supposed to take care of the sidewalk around it and put gravel in. I don't know if that's been
not at this time.
done. But, and then, how are we gonna leave it so it's dust-free? You know, bring in and lay gravel over it. So depending on what we learn in terms of the salvage would make a difference in terms of how the demolition goes.
Right.
Yeah.
But what that cost of demolition may be
Yeah.
determined by, really, do we demolish it or take it down piece by piece?
Yeah. I mean, our road department seems to be pretty good at helping out on demolition.
Yeah. 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 So do you, with the wishes of the court, to maybe bring Jeff Schott in to work with the Historical Society and seeing what could be done?
That's a good start point.
Okay, all right. Shall be done. Good. Do we, I don't think we need a motion on that. Consensus is okay. We're just kind of going, we know we got to do something with the building, so. Okay, let's pick up on the Pennington Reserve Fund here. Well, no, let's do, how about if we do the resolution for the grader? We ended up tabling this the last time because the numbers were not correct, so, yeah. It basically is paying off the loan at the bank and carrying the loan for the 2017 140K motor grader.
And these numbers are good for today only.
Today only, yep. Yeah.
If it comes back to court next time, we have to change the numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
So I move we approve resolution 2018-06 in the matter of authorizing a loan of funds from the Wind Energy SIPS Fund to the road department for the purchase of 2017 motor grader, and then the amount of $275,000.
95, 295,000.
No, the amount
Oh,
of the
okay.
loan
Oh,
is
you're right.
$275,000.
Okay, yeah, I'm
That was
sorry.
our problem before.
Yeah, you're right.
$23.28 from SIP discretionary line, with the total being paid back of $295,989.50.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2018-06, a resolution authorizing a loan of the funds from the Wind Energy SIP funds to the road department for the purchase of a 2017 Caterpillar 140 motor grader in the amount of $275,023.28, with the payoff of the loan being $295,989.50.
And that is 2.5% also.
At 2.5%
I
interest.
forgot that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
With the
5
2.5%
year.
interest rate. Okay, over a 5-year period of time.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion?
Well,
Being
it's
none-
similar to the cat
The way they do them, yeah,
that we did previously.
right,
The Caterpillar
on the dozer,
Dozer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, there being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, good. Okay, we'll move on to the Pennington Reserve Fund here. Okay, this fund, the resolution that we have here was done in 1990. It's something that we kind of talked about on many different occasions that we need to get it updated, we need to get, I'm just looking for a little bit of direction on what we would like to have within the resolution. Item number 2 in there says this fund is currently managed by Shearson, Lehman, and Hutton. That is not happening anymore. So, that definitely would be something that would come out. It says the Gilliam County Court has established a fund known as the Bennington Reserve, derived from the proceeds of the sale of the Gilliam County Ranch. That money is technically gone. It was used in the purchase of, I guess it came back with the WI's equipment. Nathan's going to come in to talk with us. This one says that if the funds exceed $1 million, the Gilliam County Treasurer is directed to only expend the annual income from the said fund. We've talked, about developing a fund for the road department for future use. And, there's other savings that we've talked about as far as capital projects within, let's say, the courthouse. Really, I guess, looking for direction from the court and how we could, or what we would like this Pennington fund to be used for. Do you want to come up?
I'm really like to say, I
Yeah.
just feel like question something.
So I know that Nathan and Commissioner Weimer have had conversations with the auditors, Mitch Saul specifically, about developing something more modernized to where we are today.
Yeah, in terms of having reserves built up to be able to have maintenance and preservation of the roads and also having reserve funds for other large capital expenditures beyond this road equipment fund that we already have.
Right.
And this would be a good way of repurposing this reserve fund. At one point, it had, the road department was supposed to get some of the money for road maintenance, I guess. But that doesn't appear in this resolution.
Right.
But somewhere during the county court time, from the Roadmaster's recollection, that's what part of it was being used for.
Yeah.
At the time. And it just seemed like this reserve fund was, this Pennington Reserve Fund was just been kind of sitting here and without much purpose now, the way it's sitting.
Right.
And our finances have changed tremendously since that time that it was set up. It was a struggle back then, just like other counties. We were struggling then to be able to finance our county government.
So there's roughly, $1.6 million in the fund now, which is, more than, what? It said $1 million. Anything over that was the interest to be used someplace, I guess. It really doesn't specify where. But, let's put it this way: it's been made available, which we haven't needed that. So.
We could have spent it down every year, back down to $1 million.
Yeah.
How much is in the road equipment reserve fund?
It's probably pretty good since we're getting ready to put more money back into it from the road grader purchase deal, from sale.
Yeah. I don't know the balance as of current today. I'd have to go look. I go find out one too.
Here. What road equipment fund is 223.
Right here. Should have.
It's, right now it's got, where it's at, roughly, let's say $230,000, $230,500.
Okay.
Sounds believable.
I mean, This is as of March 31st.
Okay.
So I think what I'm hearing from you, Mike, is that in redrafting a resolution to bring to the county court, that we look at, specifying it more for county roads, road maintenance, unusual maintenance. How do you see that? And maybe,
Well, it's
Capital project.
long-term
long-term.
maintenance and preservation.
Okay.
Not equipment, though, you're talking about.
Not equipment,
Yeah.
no. We already have that fund.
So
So
we,
this could be paving.
What's that?
This could be paving.
Yeah, that's basically what it will go to,
I think,
because we have a bridge fund.
we have a bridge fund. We have now, one thing we need to remember with the road department, I mean, he's looking at roughly an increase of about 600,000 in the coming year over and above what we've had in the past because of HB
2017.
17, right.
Yeah.
And then he had a carry, prior to our budget meeting last time, Dewey and I had spoken, and there's for the proposed budget, there's a carry of $200,000 that ended up getting added to asphalt also. So there's, I think it totals $600,000 in asphalt for next year. But, previous road projects, doesn't go as
It
far as
doesn't
you
go very far.
think it would.
Yeah, and I think that's, with this, talking about this, we don't have the other half the picture.
Right, well, we don't have Mike and I,
Yeah.
Mike and I's discussion with Mitch, basically kind of come to the conclusion, we don't have a real accurate inventory of what our roads are or where they are in their life cycle, or, it's the same with gravel. We've got gravel piles all over the county that the crushers made, and we've got an inventory, but the question is how accurate is that inventory, and then what kind of, it just says rock and it says a certain size, but it doesn't say if it's for base rock or topping for, there's different kinds of rocks. So really just even an inventory might be just a valuable thing to consider. And I'm not necessarily equipped to do it. I can go look at piles of gravel, but I can't really tell you what kind of gravel it is. Or with some training I could, but maybe hire an engineer that actually knows what they're looking at, or a mine expert of some sort.
Yeah, and I think each one of those piles, based on the conversations that you and I've had, they got a different value to them.
Right.
And really the way it's.
Potentially, at least.
Yeah.
And that is inventory. If you go look at financial statements, we have about $4 million of inventory just in rock, but it's spread all over the county, because hauling is the expensive part, it's not the rock.
Right.
It's hauling it to the site. So Dewey's done a good job about spreading that around, so he's got rock available in a reasonable distance. But, without a real accurate idea of even what the roads.
Yeah.
Well, some of the projects, the auditor, our accountants, the auditors, we call them auditors, but they're the same, do both. They've got values on them, but the values we have on our books are just accounting estimates. They say, well, they get depreciated over 15 years, and so that value may not represent what's there.
Oh,
So-
it definitely does.
So, Mike and I's discussion, maybe I'm leading Mike's
What's
talk
that?
here. Maybe I'm leading your talk for you, but
Yeah.
Mike and I's discussion basically centered around, we need to figure out what the roads we have, where they are in the life cycle, and what, calculate out whatever the repair fund would need to be. So it's great, we got $1.6 million, but that isn't very meaningful if we don't know what our needs are. So.
So I think that, really that's a challenge that we have to tackle, I think, before we go too much farther with, if we're going to use,
We
can still go ahead and do
create
this.
the fund, but I think,
Yes.
Yeah.
funding the fund needs to be done with a
Right,
planning.
planning in mind.
And right, you'd have to have And the trouble is that there is a transportation plan, but it doesn't address this situation that we're looking at in terms of the dollars. It only just talks about, well, it'd be great to have a roundabout up here at this intersection, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, well, that's gonna cost you this many $1 million.
Right.
So, that's, I mean, Dewey's giving us some estimates of what it costs for some of the, for a paving project or whatever. But it needs to be put into the whole picture in terms of, well, we need to be chip sealing this many miles of road every year or every other year kind of thing. And that'll cost us this much.
Right.
Kind of thing. So, I mean, it takes, that's what I envision that the other half of this picture is, to build, and this reserve fund then is going to be able to help us go through the
Yeah, and-
bumps, because it might be a 5-year.
Well, and something I prepared for last year's budget committee, I don't remember now, was the road department's income. Basically, state, federal grants is a good portion of income, what kind of looks like.
Yeah.
So you've got the economic crisis, and there's this big up because the feds are like, hey, we gotta get the economy stimulated, so they're dumping all this money in infrastructure, and then it kind of back down. Well, we need to smooth that out because we can't. So I think having the court having the flexibility to decide, hey, this is what we use to smooth it out, would be a good thing. I mean, there's always a concern about, smoothing it out too much, but that ultimately bankrupts the fund, so. Then you don't have to worry about having road funds and so on.
And
But having, it's still within inside the budget committee's control to some extent, because the budget committee still would propose something and, to be approved, and then it would get approved, and then, so. I think the biggest thing Mitch kind of talked about is we need to put good side rails on it and say that this fund is to be used specifically for paving, period. So don't let, that way if you spell it out in county law, they can't come in and dip out of it for 6 other things.
for a new bus bar.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or, so, if it's gonna actually be a reserve, it needs to be spelled out, real specific in a resolution,
Right.
exactly what
That reserve is
reserve
paid for.
is.
And the way the Pennington Reserve is right now, it can be spent for basically anything.
Right,
Well, it's reserve and title,
yeah.
I mean,
There's nothing
There's
in
no
here in the
sideboards on it.
resolution that has any sideboards whatsoever
No,
preventing
right,
us in.
right.
And most reserves are set up with
Yeah.
specifics, so.
Alright, so-
um,
and that's what I got out of our conversation, our hour and a half, where we were talking this, I think, so.
Right. And if we were to use this Pennington Reserve for the road system, then we still have buildings that I think is still critical that we have a reserve, that we build a
Yeah.
reserve fund there too.
Capital
Yeah.
okay.
for replacement, I don't know, you'd have to come up with time. Well, because the roof's gonna wear, basically, the roof's gonna wear out, say 30 years, or, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but you could talk to an engineer and they say, well, generally they last,
Right.
so take the short number if you're conservative, and, because they're gonna give you a range, and I say.
And we have more than just the courthouse, we have the fairgrounds too.
Yeah.
And the
Well,
road.
road shop, library, bus barn.
Right. So anyway,
Arlington.
Five-year.
Yeah.
Yeah, IBR. Yep,
We need a
that's
big
true.
reserve.
And we put a lot of money into IBR.
Right. But that hasn't come out of reserves, it's just come out of excess funds.
Right. So,
And that building's, it's 12 years old now, so, it's gonna get to the point where it's gonna start needing more rain potentially.
oh boy, that's not good, considering how much we've already put into it.
Yeah. But as time goes on.
See more and more.
So how
Okay,
many, just a quick question, how many reserve funds do we have in the budget right now?
three, basically.
So the road equipment,
Mhm.
Pennington.
Pennington, and then the bridge fund. The
Yeah,
bridge
I
fund,
think a building reserve would be.
the bridge fund is, I mean, if you look at, this year's budget, we got money, the road department got money to replace the bridge in Lone Rock. Well, we got $1.3 million. You realize our bridge fund is woefully inadequate. But those bridges, I mean, that's just a tiny bridge. I mean, think about some of those bigger ones that cost.
Well, and the bridge fund is
It's more for,
1% of the economic.
Yeah, it's part of the
capital
economic.
project fund is also a percentage of the economic enhancement fund,
Right.
which is kind of like a building reserve. It was intended originally.
yeah, attendance. Yeah. So,
Bridge fund is a line item.
it's a line item,
And so is the
and it
capital
has been,
project
Dewey's generally use it to maintain bridges. There's not enough there to replace one by any stretch of the means.
And we have one bridge that's closed right now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, really, in a way, I mean, we have the capital projects fund for,
But you could put,
funding going in there, but.
put better sideboards in it.
Right,
Or
and
change
really-
the sideboards that are there.
Really create a resolution with, create the reserve
Yeah.
fund for it, so. So the wishes of, shall we wait until maybe we go through one of these, for lack of a better way of saying it, an audit on some of our roads, our rock, all of that?
I don't,
Or shall we begin building a
I-
resolution?
I think we should go ahead with this resolution. I don't think there's,
yeah,
I don't think there's any
I am
disagreement that we don't, you know.
My comment was mainly directed to just making sure that it's adequate, because we don't really, at this point, I'm not really sure. I don't feel like I've got it, maybe you guys feel different, I don't feel like I've got a good handle on, oh, well, we need this much per year to maintain our, so. And part of it is they do cost accounting, they being the road department, does cost accounting on all the projects, but I'm not really privy to a lot of that, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't have a good handle on that,
Yeah,
so.
I think Commissioner Weimer brought that up today, that a lot of us don't, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so wish of the court, build a resolution around road fund,
Yeah.
our roads. And then also, do you want building in this Pennington Reserve Fund, buildings? Or just?
Well, it needs to be a separate fund, probably,
Okay.
and I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
All right.
I know you're trying to eliminate
All right.
funds, right, but.
You're on the
but
record saying that.
I think
so-
it makes more sense, it makes more sense in this instance, because it's.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Well, you can't, you could put restrictions on individual line items in the budget, but it becomes this huge nightmare to track. And, okay, yeah, just do another fund, because it's easier, well, it's easier, everybody realizes exactly what it's for instead of being buried somewhere.
Okay.
Um,
Okay,
And then there's no question, because it's the fund.
Right.
so.
Right.
so we're looking at really, in the near future, coming back with a couple of resolutions.
I mean, you could rename, maybe you could rename capital projects or something.
Sure.
I mean, it would,
But it's not a fund, it's
Just
just a
seems
line item,
Right.
right?
You have to make
You
sure
have
it
to make
stays
sure.
it's in alignment with what
Right.
most of the ordinance.
right,
But
so,
also
that's, you gotta make all the
the
parts
3
work together.
cents that goes now to, comes from the host piece for Cedar Springs.
For Cedar Springs Road, right?
It could maybe be a.
That could be, and currently, that's one of those in the budget, it's kinda interesting, because it's actually a building line item. By building, I mean, so basically at the end of the year, I kinda look at what we're doing in the budget. We look at how much has come in, and I say, well, here's how much ought to be there next year. So when we budget, we're just slowly making it larger by the income. That's okay, but if it was its own fund, it tracks a lot easier, it's cleaner. So, something to keep in mind. I mean, there's other line items that are like that though, too, so it's just not that one. Or there's one in the budget that's plugged in there, it's an unappropriated ending fund balance every year. That's technically a request that somebody given. I guess you have a fund for that, but at some point, I don't know if it really makes sense. So,
Okay. Okay, so we'll work on drafting a couple of resolutions for building reserve fund and road reserve fund. Okay, good. And we'll use the Pennington Fund as one of them, and the Capital Projects Fund for the other. So, yeah, maybe we can use what's already there, Nathan.
Hopefully.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. Thank you.
We're saving trees.
Exactly, there you go. Okay, we have, considered the copier from McCog, Mid-Columbia Council of Governments. So as Commissioner Weimer is well aware of, that organization is shutting down. They had contacted me, Commissioner Kramer, who I guess is kind of the individual who's leading the way in getting this shut down. And they had a copier that is exactly like the one that we have downstairs. They've offered it to us. Now, it does have one thing that's a little bit different. It has a booklet finisher, so it will staple, do a half fold and a tri-fold, and so it's got what they call a booklet finisher on the end of it. They're basically asking $5,000, so that was what I asked Kelly to contact Bonds, that's who Commissioner Kramer told me to contact, or us to contact, to find out what the value of it was. Roughly, it was $5,000. It's not that the copier outside, there's one that's really used by Leanne, myself, Amy with the juvenile department, and occasionally the planner. It was the main copier here, but we ended up replacing it simply because it sounded like it was ready to go under every day, and I think it still sounds that way. It squeaks, squawks, and every time it runs, it's, yeah. I guess this is a pretty good buy, and I think a good opportunity for us. You do pay on these copiers a service agreement that's based on a per copy rate. I want to go back up. It says this one has printed 172,000 pages.
Yeah.
Ours at this time is printed 104,000 pages, I think is what she said. So it probably has, half again as much use as what we've had.
Yeah.
But it seems really odd that maybe they're all printing to one location there in the McCog building.
And ours doesn't sound good at 104,000?
Well, no, the main one that we use that's exactly like this has 104,000.
The newest one that's at the bottom of the stairs.
Right. The one that sounds awful is the one that used to
I
be
don't
down
know
at the
what
bottom.
the count on it is.
Yeah, I have no idea, I never looked.
It's been around long.
Yeah.
The one you guys are using?
Yeah.
And that's the one you want to replace?
That's the one I want to replace.
Okay. Sure.
Well, it wasn't like I had decided, geez, we need to replace that. This sort of fell into my lap and thought, well, if we,
Right.
so it's not that we have to do this, I think it's a good opportunity for us.
So this one would be more like the main one?
It'll be exactly like the main one,
Oh, okay.
other than it does have the booklet finisher on it that we don't have. It's a BizHub C45 454E. Full color printer, copier, scanner, fax.
Well, your guys want to use it.
Well,
I mean, and what,
I think this is, eventually that one's gonna crash. Now, we would probably end up going down to use the one in the hall. The one that's outside our office, I will say is probably a luxury. But it's a luxury that gets used every single day like it's a ride to work.
This is probably a pretty good deal. I would say let's go ahead.
okay.
I bought a few copiers. They're
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. I think it's a good opportunity for us.
Go for it.
Okay, all right. You guys are good with it?
Yeah.
Move. Make them, yeah, give me a motion.
Okay, I move that we purchase this used copier from McCog in the amount of $5,000. Anything else?
Nope, that'll work for me.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to purchase the used copier from McCog for the amount of $5,000. Any further discussion?
How come we got this opportunity?
I'll be perfectly honest with you, I think Wasco County would have liked it, but money was an issue, so, yeah. And we didn't apparently have an issue, or the perception is we don't have any issues with money. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to drop into, we met with the Department of Land and Conservation Development, and this was last Tuesday, and they have come up with it's kind of a long story, but it's called the Economic Opportunity Analysis. The DLCD has been given the opportunity, given $300,000 for the purpose of, for Eastern Oregon to do economic analysis of counties that have very little growth. I'm trying to see exactly what it was here. It's not really determined exactly how much money that we would get, but if we're interested in this, we could sign up and have an individual. They would bring in an individual to come in and do an economic analysis on mostly our cities and determining, what we maybe need to do and create better growth opportunities for us here. It says that with the funds, DLCD will contract with consultants experienced in completing economic opportunity analysis, and the consultant will work for the city or a group of cities within a county or region to prepare draft updates to a comprehensive plan. Because of the demand within the region, the given critical role infrastructure plays in realizing economic growth, public facilities inventories will also be offered. So it's basically applying for a grant to do this economic opportunity analysis.
And it's like a no-match deal?
A no-match deal. We just let them know that we would like to be involved. I think it's a first come, first serve. I believe that it's really tied to either 7 or 8 specific counties. It's not going to be available for Deschutes County. Morrill County, doesn't qualify for this. The ones that probably do: Sherman, Gilliam, Wheeler, Malheur, Harney. I can't remember whether Baker and Grant qualify.
So it's really going to give us an outside opinion of what we're trying to do.
So just a little bit of background with this. I don't know whether you remember Senate Bill 432, but that was the one that was really going to change land use laws within the state, and it was really for the 7 counties. Jim Rue and I talked about, he was pretty upset with the fact that that was being pushed. And Jim Rue, who's the director of the LCD, said, "What if we come up with this? If we get the funding for it, will you guys back off?" Basically on it. I mean, that's okay. A real quick summary. That was it. So this is kind of the alternative for that. They also have, I believe there's like $1.7 million that's available to what they call a public facility inventory to determine things like, prepare information and maps showing the location, capacity, and condition of water, sewer disposal, stormwater management, transportation systems inside the urban growth boundary for the purpose of assessing the community's economic development potential. Catherine, did you feel that that was going to be a lot more competitive? Was that?
I'm not sure, but a lot of this work was done during the housing project, but it's not all put together. So
Right.
I urge you guys to please apply for this grant so we can get all the information in a cohesive package. Because one of the things that I did bring mine up here, is it does do a lot of code updates and code audits, which I don't know how the county's is in the UGB, but it would be good if the county looked
For
at their
sure.
planning. We've already looked at ours, but one of the biggest things is housing strategies, implementation plans. And since the housing project it would also do building inventories. So Rachel did a pretty good one for Condon. They need to do another one for Arlington, and it would be really good to have.
Yeah, I think you saw the picture in the Times Journal with John Jennings standing on the desk,
Yeah.
you know, kneeling on the desk. He was looking at Rachel's City of Condon map at that time. And so,
And I think it would be better too if it's a cooperative grant instead of, I mean, the city
Yeah.
could apply for it, but we've already done a lot with our code, so it would be a lot better if it went to the county applied for the grant.
yeah, I think if the county applied for it in
So we
coordination
have
with
Rachel
two
do
cities.
this?
Yes.
Okay.
In cooperation with PCDC and the two cities.
Three.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
We'll move forward on that. Okay. Okay, we have some, minutes to consider. Claims pending review. Just kind of clean up a few things before we get to court member reports.
Can we table the 18th? I didn't have those.
Okay, all right.
I saw just a couple things in the 4th.
Okay.
I did. Okay, this is probably kind of picky, but in the first, in the public comment section, when Henry Wilkins was talking to the court, and it says to reconsider its previous request for rock, and I think it would be their request for rock, because it's kind of makes you think the court requested it, so that was just a silly grammar thing. On the top of the next page, when it talks about the transportation building, it says, Davy said it had been determined that the existing bus barn location doesn't have adequate space, but I would rather put in her opinion, the existing barn location doesn't have adequate space. Because I don't know if it was actually determined by, if it was determined by her, then I guess that would be her opinion.
Right.
On top of the page 3, I think I'm the one that made the motion to direct the sheriff to conduct a sale of the tax on the foreclosed property on Potter Street, and instead of Mike.
Okay.
Because I kind of jumped the gun on that one, and then you guys decided we wanted to put some stipulations on it.
Then we got you to withdraw.
And I had to
Yeah.
withdraw.
Okay.
And-
Yeah. that-
on just page 5, it needs a period there, and then it goes into this next sentence right down here.
Oh, yeah.
Just missing a period. And at the top of page 9, it says Commissioner Weatherall asked if the sheriff's office would be able to perform a background check, and Judge Schaefer said the office has already been asked and declined. I would just insert a has there.
Just Mr. Word.
That was all I got. That's all I have.
You can see I read it really fast the last time.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go back to Davey said that it would be determined that the existing bus barn location doesn't have the adequate space for necessary expansions. So what are you wanting to change
Well,
that
I just
to?
I think rather than saying it had been determined that the bus barn didn't have adequate space, because I think it did, it just was very expensive. So I just wondered about saying it had been determined that the bus barn location didn't have adequate space, because I thought it did. I mean, I thought Jeff did that whole plan and it was okay, it was just really, really expensive, and I thought that was the problem, not necessarily that there was space.
I thought
Yeah.
there was a space problem that wouldn't allow them to back out onto the road.
Well, I thought that was determined with the strange location that they had to put the addition on. I thought they still,
Yeah,
just made it so you couldn't really use this property how you
Right.
would normally think you could.
And you are right, Leslie. I mean, basically, the way the building sets right now, it isn't a problem, but you can't get the bus in there, of course. So the only option was to build to the east. And so consequently, building to the east, the cost was so high that, you know, it wasn't worth doing it, or she didn't feel. So, yeah, okay, I'll agree with what you stated, yeah. Okay. You did pick up on some things that completely got past me. I missed the period.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I read them 3 times. Okay, and I didn't realize it was a motion.
Well, I remember because,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Sure. Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the April 4th regular court meeting minutes with the
So moved.
corrections. Okay,
Second.
so it's been moved and seconded to approve the April 4th regular court meeting minutes as corrected. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We did have the executive session minutes.
I move we approve the April 4th executive session minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the April 4th executive session minutes. Discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll table the April 18th. We have claims pending review.
I so move. We approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the April claims pending review. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Okay, we've got court member reports. I want to, there are 2 things that I'm going to really, I guess, get out. It was a very busy week for me, but the grain lab, I think the last time we talked, I had told you that there was an entity that was quite interested in utilizing the facility. That entity was Waste Management. They have decided that no, this is not going to work for them. So, you know, I guess at this time, we're kind of back at square one. I guess the recommendation that I'm going to give right now is that maybe we either look at 2 things. We either look at going out for a whole new appraisal to get the EDA out of it completely, or we go ahead and market the facility and see what we can get as far as entities expressing interest in leasing it, unless the court is wanting to, you know, put this thing up for sale. If we do that, we're going to have to partition off the land that would be underneath it. I think that would, it's all part of you know, the industrial park. So
I wouldn't mind seeing if we could find somebody to lease it first, but that's just my opinion.
that was the direction that I really wanted to go. Let's see if we can put it on the market, see if there's somebody out there who might be interested in leasing it. At this time, we have received permission from the EDA stating that they'll be very flexible in us being able to get somebody in there. So that to me was a big step that we were able to accomplish, at least the first part of this specific calendar year, which we had never had that before.
Another idea that I came up with was using this as a place for people who want to process foods. That it would take some major remodeling probably, but it's an idea. I think now, I'm not sure where people have to go to you know, if they don't have their own approved kitchen, that this way you can come in and use the facilities and make your salsa or whatever it is that you do. Kind of thing. That was just an idea that I kind of, think I bounced it off of Rachel. She kind of thought, oh, yeah.
That might be, that's not. a
But
bad idea.
meanwhile,
Yeah.
we better see about seeing if somebody's willing. Because that would be a capital project.
That would be,
Law.
yes, it would.
Yeah.
Yes, it would. So the process of, well, my assumption would be this, and I did kind of have a check with Catherine on what the city had done on their property down there, but, you know, we really would probably need to have the legal counsel really kind of determine the criteria that we would have within a lease agreement. So when we do put it out on the market, that there is something there, that if somebody does have interest in it, they see what that agreement would be. Does that make sense? So I would like to contact legal counsel, kind of see what kind of sideboards he would suggest, and maybe back with us at the next meeting so that we can really put something together. Then also, maybe, you know, come up with a criteria or whatever is going to be required of us on what we have to do to get an entity to be the marketing agency, whether it's a real estate agent or what it would be, whether we have to go out for an RFP or what a lot of that would be. So that will be on the next county court meeting. So, okay, the other thing that I have is an update on the Metro contract situation. Metro has made a decision. There were two portions of the Metro contract that were involved with this. There was the solid waste handling and storage of it, then there was also a transportation portion of it. They've settled, they did determine the list, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, on the transportation end of things. Number one was trucking. Walsh Trucking actually won the overall transportation bid. Number two was a tie between an LTE, I think it was, trucking company, and Union Pacific and Waste Management's rail. Number three was Tidewater barges choices. So what Metro's decided to do now is to actually take, the trucking is now number one. How does it fit within the four entities that are looking to handle the solid waste? So in other words, what kind of cost would it be, additional costs, in what, say, Waste Connections and Finley Butte, and whatever their bid is, in hauling by truck to their location, as opposed to barging it or by rail to so this transportation thing now has a touch on each one of the four landfills that are involved with it. So that's going to be an interviewing process that goes on. I'm not really sure the exact dates yet, but as soon as they get that set and determining when that's going to happen, one tentative date that was given to me was March 18th, but nothing solid. Or excuse me, May 18th. May. Yeah, it's a Friday. Yeah. But nothing has been set yet. Anyway, that's kind of the where that situation is and where things are at with it now.
Kind of strange. The logic doesn't quite, I don't follow quite their logic of picking the transportation first.
Yeah, I kind of,
Or maybe transportation is the biggest portion of their costs.
well, I'm sure it is. I'm sure that, transporting it probably is the one single largest cost that they would probably have. I mean, I can't, is there something that you might have?
Well, how's that compared to, I mean, what's the tipping fee versus the transportation? Of a ton of garbage, what part is cost?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What's the largest number there?
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, this is, I did have a conversation with Paul Slyman, and some of the staff people, more than one conversation with some of the staff people involved, and the confusion of what has been really brought forward with this, but it just seems as if, okay, now
It leaves all
we're
the,
starting all over again, kind of in a way, but.
it leaves like the Wasco County landfill is still competitive with trucking.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be some other issues.
Well, we're kind of hoping so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of hoping so. I think we have an in on that, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I got somebody who'll go down and protest against Wasco County.
There you go. There you go. Also, well, that's, we did have a Frontier Telnet meeting. We met with Umatilla Morrow Radio Data District and people from Motorola. The discussion was in around RDD, utilizing the infrastructure that Frontier Telnet has for public safety communications. That's up in the air. There was, a good lengthy conversation just for the people in the audience. It's, Umatilla Morrow Radio Data District is a taxing district. I don't know exactly what it is per thousand that they have, but their revenue is about $1.3 million a year, and they had difficulties keeping their system up. They did take a tour of everything that Frontier Telnet has, and the results of that I have yet to see. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, wanted to keep you guys informed on that. We also received a letter from the Secretary of State. This actually I turned over to Nathan, but I wanted you guys to be aware of it. It's basically a review of our audit, and that it's disclosed the following issues that should be corrected in the future reporting. We have kind of addressed those already, but here's a letter. First time we've ever gotten something like this. As Mitch had said, there's really been some changes at the Secretary of State's office and some of the things that they're asking for. Nathan and I have had a few conversations about one of the big issues that we have is that the fiscal agent is that the one I use? Is actually the same people who do the audit. No, the people who put together the financial report, that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
The financial report are the same people that do the audit, and Nathan's thinking that it might be beneficial to Gilliam County if he went and got some training to get to the point to where he could do our own financial reports. I agree with him. I think he would be more than capable of doing it. It's just a matter of him getting the training. Also, I'm going to get into Norcor real quick. We're still having some issues in dealing with the housing of ICE prisoners. It's every single meeting, there are people there who feel, this is not something that we should be doing. I think it's the position of the board at this time that we are not violating Oregon law, and that this is a revenue source that is pretty important in the county's abilities to be able to keep the facility open. We also did, and I can email this to you, we did receive the Juvenile Detention Facility Action Plan. This was put together by the by the juvenile directors and an outside agency and the determining a plan and taking care of that. What was it? It was a DOR group that come in and did an audit on more core juvenile facilities. So that's probably about halfway through the action plan now. I can scan this and send this out to you. It's pretty extensive. Good reading if you want to take a look at it, so I will do that.
I see on this prison thing that they're attacking other prisons now besides the Oregon juvenile facilities. I mean, they're going across the country.
Yeah.
This deal about mistreating mentally ill people.
Right, yeah, this is, actually, this was the report that hit the meeting first. It actually was not the first that they had done.
Right.
Multnomah County had quite a few issues too. Yeah, there was more than just, and this one just happened to be juveniles that they actually checked in Normore and not the adult facilities. So the juvenile caused it to raise to a higher level. I also met with Governor Brown last Friday and Colette Peters, Director of Corrections. It was a good conversation about mental health coverage in the area. They were quite interested in the things that Gilliam County has done in creating the 2 clinicians on each end to handle mental health. They also, with the school counselor position that we created, it seems to have raised to a level that more people wanted to have information on it, including the governor. So we said probably a 30-minute conversation in regards to what Gilliam County has done and really developing these clinicians that are on both ends of the county. In a county our size, normally it would be 1 for every 5,000 people. Ratio of that. So anyway, just kind of filled her in on how this came about. I believe it started with Judge Shaw, and we just kind of expanded a little bit more on that after that. So, and let's see, what else went on?
Tri-County?
Oh, Tri-County Court. Well, how about if I turn that one over to you? Tri-County Court was quite interesting. I mean, some of the subject matters that we covered, specifically the wildlife services, I think is something that we really, trying to bring into the forefront. Right now, we are scheduled to go with APHIS, wildlife services coverage. Wheeler County has chosen to go a different way. Sherman County will probably go with APHIS. Well, the discussion was in around, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, the 3 counties contracting under one umbrella, or each county individually contracting with a person to do it, whether there would be a cost savings to us or not. I think the word that we got really from, let's say, Bob Thomas specifically, was that he didn't feel that there was any way that maybe the 3 counties could get 2 wildlife predator controllers that could cover the geographic area that the 3 counties have.
And then we also questioned the kind of the overhead expense of the APHIS program.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. APHIS takes roughly 18% of the money that we give them goes to something other than the person doing the work. And let's see, what else did we have in the Tri-County?
The veterans compensation package.
Yeah, he was moved from to a different, more into an administrative end as opposed to
Right. merit-based, well,
Yeah.
Sherman County uses merit-based pay,
Right. So he,
but it bumped his position to a different,
yeah, it really moved him to what, I'm gonna go there's like a management level and then there's the normal level, and it moved him from what would be normal up to the management level. So within their step merit-based program that they have, this individual went from where he was maxed out to really back to the beginning, giving him the opportunity based on merit to move up in pay scale. I didn't really understand what Sherman County was trying to explain that they do.
they got a different system.
They have a different system and it wasn't articulated real well, so.
And you talked a little bit about Tri-County government.
I did. I had, because of all of these things that we have, I'm looking into the possibilities of forming a Tri-County Council of Governments, for a lack of a better way of putting it, creating something that would, I guess, create a better management level for things like Frontier Regional 911, Frontier Telemet, Tri-County Corrections, all the things that we have this partnership in. For instance, this APHIS Wildlife Services, if we were to contract, is there maybe an entity that can kind of oversee the tracking of some of the, the expenses and revenues that come into it, as opposed to one county doing it? There was about human resources, maybe sharing the human resources individual to help cover all 3 counties. Risk management was another one. So right now where that is I'm reaching out to, Jim Johnson. Anyway, I haven't got it accomplished yet. So reaching out to him to see what scope of work it would take to be able to put this together, along with a cost on doing that, and whether it's something that we can find somebody to maybe do some research as to whether it would be a viable thing to do. The point with it would be, it probably would cost each one of the counties, so we need to determine exactly what that scope of work would be, what the cost of it would be, and then bring it back to each one of the county courts. And I'm hopeful of having that to us on all 3 counties for May 16th meetings. Hopefully.
May?
Is it May 16th? Yeah, May 16th, county court meetings.
Oh.
And, gosh, Mike, and you were there.
Yeah.
It was really a pretty good meeting, and it was a great lunch.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that you guys might have that I kind of talked to the entire
COG
time?
had a meeting, but then the communications got messed up, so they had to reschedule it, and I missed that one.
Oh.
And it was all to do with the resolution for the sale of the building. It was kind of a housekeeping kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And I understand, I think Tom McCoy said that they got the job done.
Okay.
On that,
Okay.
on this resolution. And besides Tri-County Court, then I had Capco last Friday, and there wasn't any great action taken there. The AAA program's still moving forward, and that's, they're having another training session for the board, and it happens to be on our budget committee meeting.
The 9th or 10th, or?
On the 9th.
The 9th,
Yeah.
okay.
So anyway, that's all I have
Okay.
to report on.
And Leslie had some wonderful time in Ireland, so
I
let's
did.
see. I want to hear more about the pubs and.
It was great. I got pictures.
Yeah.
I went to, in addition to that, I went to a North Central Public Health District meeting. I think it was on the 10th. They just talked more about the budget process, because, the week before, we had our budget committee meeting, so a little bit more about what we still had to do with the budget. She gave us some grant updates and reviewed some contracts. I also went to a Columbia Ridge Landfill Citizen Advisory Committee meeting, and they talked about the CUP renewal status. They gave employment updates, they're still trying to do job fairs and stuff and get people hired. They talked about their waste flow update and what projects they were working on, and it was kind of a pretty quick meeting, but yeah.
They
That's about
didn't,
it.
did they complain on housing in the area and not enough?
Not at that meeting.
No? Yeah.
Give us a break on that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we need more, I guess, of those breaks. Anyway, any comments out in the audience? Anybody want to, questions, additions? Okay. Then I guess if we have no more, we shall adjourn for the day about 3 hours later than I thought we would. Okay.